Kamaru Usman versus Dricus Du Plessis is upon us this Saturday, and I done the footage, guys. I actually was up late, like my eyes are still red. Like I slept for like 6 hours, guys, but like my contacts have been irritating me, so like I just been miserable. I was watching DDP fights while miserable, guys. Imagine how that feels watching someone just fucking slug, and I'm trying to like assess everything. Nah, jokes aside, but. Guys, you guys know I haven't missed. I'm 6 for 6 in these. I feel like it's getting more risky, though. I got to be careful because I feel like I'm starting to just abuse my intellect too much. Because, I'm always right, but, I feel like eventually a time has to come where I falter. And I was really afraid of this one, guys, and I'm going to tell you guys why. I gotta be transparent with you guys. So, when this fight was first announced, you guys already know my take for it from on it if you followed me. I was like, I'm sorry, this is an easy fight for Dricus. Like, that's what I was saying, and I wasn't even trying to be against my dog, Usman. You see the Nigerian flag. That's my brother, all my life. But what scared me about that is that I had that assumption, right? And then I watched footage, and then, the gears started to shift the opposite way. And this happened so many times with me, guys. Yuri versus Oberg, I was saying Yuri was going to win until I watched footage. Charles versus Max, I was saying Max was going to win until I watched footage. Even the recent fight, Patty versus BST, when it was first announced, I'm saying BST is going to win. Then I watched footage and I said Patty's going to win. And they all happen with these 100+ hour videos. I don't know what it is about me. When I start to watch, I start to notice things. I'm like, did I ignore these initially? Or was I just why did I not see these points at first? Now, the same thing kind of happened here, and we're going to talk about it, guys. So, listen, if you just want a non-biased, objective point of view, I say this at the start of every 100+ hour videos, just watch this, man. I'm going to say the truth about their pros and cons, and then you guys could just interpret how you want to. And, of course, I'm going to interpret how I want to because I feel like I did a lot of footage on this, guys. I watched a lot of fights I need to watch. Let's get into it, guys. No more stalling. And I'm scared because, like I said, my 100% rate is always on the line with these videos. Starting off with things to note with Usman. Not very active and nearly 40. Yes, May 11th, I believe. He turned 39 years old. And he's not active, guys. Yes, he fought last year, but that was a minute ago now. And before that, he hasn't fought in a long time, and it was a short notice fight against Hamza, So it's been a long time since Usman fought consistently, and he's nearly 40. You can't really get away with that in the UFC. Now, I'm not going to bring up the Conor McGregor example because that was a 5-year layoff, and he's not he was losing clear situations against Dustin before that leg break. Which leads me to Usman. Every loss has an asterisk. Now, I was saying this when I was picking, when I was going into the Buckley-Usman fight, but people ignored me you're coping. I was saying that Usman never really lost clear. Guys, great fighters lose, and it's kind of okay, obvious. Obviously, Leon Edwards 2, that fight, Usman was destroying him, then a head kick happened, cool. Guys, I just watched back the third fight. I'm telling you, first of all, I didn't realize how much Leon cheated in the third fight. I remember it a long time ago, but watching it back, he cheated really well, and he got out of some great situations with fence grabs where he would have ended up on the ground and probably controlled for the rest of the round. He would hook the gloves, he would nut shot. I got to give it to Leon. Watching it back, he did a really good job cheating. And people aren't going to people are going to oh, you're coping. I'm just, don't watch it back if you want to act like I'm just making this up. Don't watch it back, because if you watch it back, you're going to be amazed. And then even that, I just watched it back before this video. Usman didn't lose that fight, in my opinion. I thought it was a draw at worst, but could just maybe coping. But that was the clearest loss on Usman's resume. On paper, what is Hamza a clear loss? I just watched that back today as well. I'm gonna be honest, the first round it could be 10-8 or 10-9. It depends if you value control time. If you value damage, maybe round 1 wouldn't be a 10-8. But if you value control time, yes, it's a 10-8. And then round 2, Usman won. Then round 3, Usman won. In my opinion, I feel like Usman did a good job in round 3 when it was 1-1. He got up from that last takedown and landed decent shots at the end. And before that takedown, he was landing some good shots. They could say it's coping, but in my opinion, every loss has an asterisk. I've never seen Usman go in there and get his ass whooped. I've seen that with some good fighters like Ilia Topuria, Justin Gaethje. It was a good showing from Ilia, but I'll be real. He was objectively just getting kind of beat up as that fight elongated. I never really seen Usman get beat up. And usually with these older fighters, they seem to lose a step somewhere, but I haven't really seen Usman have situations like that. Not even even get even Izzy. Izzy, I feel like I could almost say the same thing. But the Joe Pyfer fight, he might have won until he lost, but Izzy lost that because his fight IQ. I don't really see fights where Usman shows bad fight IQ, which leads me to my next point. This might be the best fight IQ I've ever seen. Now, this is going to sound like glaze, guys, but I'm telling you right now, when you start to watch Usman's footage, you realize he doesn't do anything crazily well. And that sounds a little bit maybe I'm disrespecting him, but I'm not. his wrestling's really good. Like, it's really good, guys, but like, I don't think of him as like a Khabib Nurmagomedov or like even a Hamza Chimaev. I don't think he's like a world-class wrestler. He's a really good wrestler though. And like, his striking objectively isn't pretty and isn't good, but guys, it's really solid. Like, the way he lands his jabs and his straights, like, it's almost like his jab sometimes feels like a right hand, especially when he's switching stances. He does a lot of things that like has the opponents thinking. He knows when to like apply pressure, you know, and kind of fluster his opponents, and he knows when to like fake takedowns, cause big reactions, and start landing on top. His fight IQ is what helps him. It's like, and when you watch his, like, a lot of his fights back, you're gonna start to realize, yeah, you're right, Kenny. His striking actually looks a little bit green at times. Sometimes he just be swinging like out the place, you know, and looks awkward, but it's working, you know. And I really feel like it comes down to fight IQ, and I want people to understand his fight IQ might be one of the best. Like, there's a reason he was one of the, in my opinion, the greatest welterweight of all time, you know, one of the best fighters of all time, because his fight IQ. It's not because Usman's 10 times the better striker or 10 times the better wrestler, you know. Usman's not going in there with like Khabib Nurmagomedov, guys, every fight with the same game plan. His fight IQ is what gets him these wins. I want people to understand that. He's good at everything, but it's the way he puts them all together. That's what gets him the win. Another thing to note, though, I said, is this only his second fight at 185. So, of course, this is notable. His one fight was against Hamza Chimaev, who's a mutual opponent of Dricus Du Plessis. Of course, Hamza dominated Dricus, and I thought Hamza and Usman had a draw. You know, neither here or there. It was still a great showing, you know, for him at 185. But it's only his second time, so I don't know. Like, this is probably more of a negative than positive, because it's only your second time in the weight class. I don't know if you're going to feel comfortable. Of course, this one's not on 10 days notice, so you're going to have more time to actually, like, you know, be appropriately into that weight class, so that should be interesting. And the last thing to know, he has great cardio. That's a part of his fight IQ. What makes him so good is because he's able to do things longer in the rounds when other people aren't. He always used to say something in his prime like, yeah, I got the biggest shovel, man. Yeah, man, you're bad. Like, he has the biggest shovel. I just think that when he says that, he just means he can outwork people for a longer period of time while they start to wilt. Ties into his pressure, striking, and everything else he does. So those are things to note about Kamaru Usman. Now let's go to things to note about Dricus Du Plessis in this fight. First of all, he's active. In comparison to Usman, he's actually active. Like, Usman's not consistently fighting yearly. You know, DDP is fighting yearly and multiple times a year at that, you know, but he's coming off a destructive loss where he got out-wrestled. This is something important to note, of course, because he's going against someone who's primarily known for their wrestling, even though they do other weapons great. But that's definitely a significant point, because Usman coming off a dominant grappling match against Joaquin Buckley, who, let me just say this real quick, guys. Watching back the Joaquin Buckley fight, him and DDP are oddly similar. And I know people aren't going to actually understand what I mean, but they're similar in the way that they almost blitz stupidly, but with crazy power behind it. You could argue Buckley maybe has more one-punch power or whatever, but both guys have power in my opinion. I think DDP has more thudding power, but they both blitz in at like a very weird way, you know, and they both rely on like brute strength when they get taken down, which is something I noticed DDP doing against Hamza, where you, instead of like going for some kind of sweep, he would just kind of buck and buck. Same with Buckley, like they're kind of green. So I feel like Usman going against Buckley was oddly interesting because it was so similar in a weird sense in a stylistic standpoint. The major difference is Buckley's not going to kick as much as DDP, but as far as just like the blitz and what they do when they're taken down, I found that really interesting. So I think it is very important that he's coming off a destructive loss against Hamza. This could be a good or bad thing. This can mean like he's upgrading his wrestling now. You know, fighters always say that, yeah, after getting dominated in grappling, yeah, I came back a different person. That usually isn't the case from what I've noticed from people, because it's just so hard to go against someone who's been doing it their whole life and you just locked in the last 6 months. And DDP's coming off an injury, but I'm not even going to add that to things to note. But outside of that, I said this is the biggest opponent Usman's ever fought. Hamza is stronger than Dricus physically, in my opinion, but he's not bigger than Dricus, you know. So this is going to be the biggest. Just the physicality of Dricus is very important in this fight, and I feel like it's going to lead to Usman struggling in some situations. I'm going to elaborate later in the video. Also said he struggled the most in his career with wrestlers. I watched back the Derek Brunson fight today. He struggled in that fight in the wrestling exchanges, and Derek Brunson's a pretty solid wrestler. You know, Derek Brunson was winning that fight until he fatigued, which is something Derek Brunson's notorious for doing. Whereas I feel like Usman's not notorious for fatiguing. Matter of fact, quite the latter. He's quite the opposite of that. He strives in moments like that, and he starts to break his opponents. So he struggles the most with wrestlers. People like you're gonna find out, guys, a lot of people DDP fights aren't wrestlers, you know, and he looks good in those fights to a sense, you know, which I find interesting. But these are things to know for Dricus Du Plessis and things to know for Kamaru Usman. Now we're gonna get into the stylistic breakdown, starting with the grappling. or the striking of Kamaru Usman. Great jab and a great straight and constant stance switches. I'm saying this because you'll see him switch to southpaw and orthodox. He's primarily orthodox, but when he was like dropping Gilbert Burns with jabs, why was he dropping him with jabs? Why those jabs look so strong? Because half of them were he was switching to southpaw and throwing his jab, which is his right hand in orthodox. So I actually didn't realize how much Usman switches stances until watching footage, which sounds like I'm a casual, but yeah, Usman does always switch stances, and he moves really well. Like, he moves light on his feet for having no knees. Like, it's a little bit weird how well he moves. Sometimes I feel like I take a little bit too much for how he looks walking on his knees, you know, because he looks horrible. Even at the end of every round, the way Usman stands up, it just gives me anxiety. I'm like, yo, his knees must be hurting. But every fight, he just fights through it, you know, because he has great, I don't know, he moves well for that negative I feel like he has in his body. Like, also, he has a solid rear leg teep. He throws this a lot. He throws the back leg. He throws it in like a teep, almost like head kick, front kick kind of situation. He throws it every fight in a lot, actually. It's like it's one of his only kicks he uses. He'll occasionally throw a low kick, but I remember him talking to Izzy one time on like a little interview thing. Not an interview, like they were just on some chill shit. And he was like, I don't know why you throw so much leg kicks. Those shits hurt. So I can tell Usman just doesn't want to like to concern himself with a lot of low kicks. He'll throw some occasionally, but every time I notice when he throws them, it kind of just duds against the shin of the other guy, and he just never throws it for the rest of the fight. But yeah, he's not huge on like low kicks, but he's always gonna throw that rear leg teep. Like, he throws it from the back leg and he just throws it up almost like a front kick. So he does that a lot, and he does that every fight, and I think it's one of his better weapons because sometimes it like teeps straight to the stomach and it stabs some energy. Takedown feints open up striking. This is going to be something I feel like personally is going to be really big in this fight. Usman does he does something Hamza doesn't do in the takedowns, where Hamza doesn't feint takedowns. Hamza just goes for it. Usman feints takedowns. You see him feint it, then throw an uppercut, or feint it, and then load up a right hand. He did it against Hamza. Like, he's really good at feinting takedowns consistently and just drawing out reactions. And when you're constantly reacting to a takedown, it almost like makes you be less confident in your hands and not want to throw more, especially if you're someone who's coming off a loss against someone like Hamza Chimaev, who just destroyed you in the wrestling, and you're expecting Usman to go in there and just take you down for the whole time. Once he's throwing those feints, it's going to open up a lot of striking exchanges. Also said he has great pressure alongside that. So he has great feints for the takedowns, and then he has great pressure alongside of that. So you're going to see a lot of feints from Usman that's going to open up the strikes, and he's going to stay on the pressure. If you're backing up DDP, it's going to cause DDP to do something, which I'm going to talk about when I start to get into it. But people kind of know DDP's a reactive fighter, so when you land on him, he's gonna just come back with a crazy blitz, you know. But I don't want to say too much about DDP because we're gonna get there soon. But Usman's striking is objectively really good, despite how green it looks sometimes. You know, and he kind of ends up in these weird brawls sometimes, but he always like usually wins those exchanges. But it leads me to some cons. I said he's hittable in the flurries. So something about Usman, he gets hit in the flurries and he almost pauses. Like he's like throwing, he gets hit, he pauses, or like takes a weird step and then keeps going. And like he almost gets mad at himself. Like he gets hit, he's like, oh, what's up, man? He has like an ego thing, and I like it. Like it makes for some banger fights, but it happens almost every fight. He like bites, he knows when to bite down in his mouthpiece and say, yo, what's up? But it's not good being hittable in flurries because it opens up situations, you know. And DDP hits with some thudding power. And let's be real, Kobe's able to like pause you in some exchanges. DDP could definitely do more so than that. Also said he's heavy on his front leg. He does a good job sliding out of low kicks, but he's still heavy on his front leg. And someone like DDP is going to love those low kicks. He's going to be throwing those low kicks at Kamaru Usman. So he's going to have to be careful being so heavy on that front leg, because if he gets his leg chewed up, I've never seen it before. You know, Jorge Masvidal, Leon Edwards, they all threw a lot of low kicks, but I never really seen Usman like have his leg compromised, which is a bit weird, you know. Which you would think you would have seen that. But I feel like if we are going to see it, it's going to be a fight like this. Also said he's prone to head kicks because how he evades body kicks. This is so important. When Usman gets body kicked, he almost like leans down a direction and like almost uses his hand to scoop down, you know. And when every time he gets body kicked, for the most part, he like falls forward in front of himself. So he starts to like anticipate the body kicks, and that's when head kicks are going to present themselves. And someone like DDP does have a good body kick, so that's what I'm really worried about, because he can't. This head kick shit, it's a deficiency that he has. Like he's prone to these shits. So someone like DDP, who has a great body, low, and head kick, it could be problematic, you know. So he's got to be careful, man, especially in a fight like this against a taller opponent than he usually goes against. Didn't even mention that. Like I did say this is the biggest guy Usman's fought, so it's gonna be something really scary. Leon Edwards might be the same height as him, but it's a different physicality when it comes to Dricus Du Plessis, which brings me to Dricus Du Plessis. Let's talk about his striking pros. Head, body, and low kick are just amazing. And that question mark kick, it's so slick. It's so just nasty and it's so quick. He throws a really quick front lead head kick. Like, I don't understand how he has so much weight on his front leg, but he could just whip that kick up so quickly. He's very talented in that aspect. I also said strong boxing blitz, you know, and why I also said constant stance switch as well. He's similar to Usman in that situation. But I noticed, guys, and I don't know if I'm the only one who's noticed this, because we always like wonder what makes his blitz so goofy. He's actually like walking with his blitz. Like, he's switching stances in the process of throwing that blitz. You know, it's a bit weird. Like, you never really see that. You know, it's like that's why he looks so clumsy, because he's like walking with it. Like, he's like blitzing, and like, you're not supposed to throw a 1-2 like that. You're supposed to 1-2. You know, your front leg always stays in front. He's defying the rules. He's breaking the rules. He's not fighting objectively smart or correctly. And that blitz lands on a lot of people. A lot of people, for a specific reason that I'm going to elaborate later, but they're mostly strikers who have a tendency of leaning back. Also said he has a solid high guard, though. Like DDP sleeps with his arms up here. Like, he does a good job evading. Despite that, a lot of jabs get through, but like, if you're going to throw like an overhand flurry for the most part, he's probably going to like catch your second punch after like getting hit with the jab. So he has a really solid high guard, and he has thudding power. I feel like everyone knows that. Like, DDP hits you. It's not like, oh, he knocked you out with one punch, but like, you can see the effect it has on the opponents. Like, it's like, it sends them flying. Like, it's like it sends them flying across the octagon. They get hit by DDP, and it's just a thud, thud, thud. It's gross, and it's just tough, and it's hefty, you know. So that's definitely a striking pro, especially against someone who's coming up in weight. And the only other guy he fought at 185 is Hamza, who might have one-punch knockouts, but I just feel like DDP has more overall thudding power than a Hamza Chimaev. Hamza might have like maybe a better one-hitter quitter, but like, as far as like the thud, even if you block a DDP shot, I feel like you just feel the slugness in it. You just feel the nasty gnarliness in it, you know? Which leads me to some striking cons, of course. Sloppy blitz, which is leaving openings, and then his body's always open. Someone like Israel Adesanya did a good job capitalizing on it when he realized that DDP just does this the whole time. Adesanya would just lead with a straight punch, hammer to the body, or throw some body kicks, because the body kicks are there. Everything's there. Like, it's always there because he just sleeps with his hands up. Like I said, Usman does have that good body teep. That's going to be open in a fight like this. So, yeah, he's very sloppy. But despite his sloppy blitz leaving openings, it is hard to counter unless you're going to sit in the fray with him like Usman might do. But if you're trying to lean back and counter it, chances are you're not going to do it. You know, and that's a mistake I didn't understand leading into the Izzy fight, that it's hard to lean back and try to like counter in the midst of it, because unlike a Whitaker who might jump into like a 1-2, DDP could do like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's so relentless. Like, DDP's actually so relentless. Did I even say that for a pro? I didn't even say that for a pro, but his relentless pressure is something crazy. Like, he would throw a bunch of exchanges, guys, and then like chain a takedown behind all of that. Like, he's just a wild man, especially when it comes to the striking, which leads me to the striking comparison. Let me just say this. DDP is objectively the better striker. And I said DDP will use his kicks heavily. Usman's takedown threat will help massively, though. And I said that striking will be closer than many people think. Like, I feel like people, before footage, I was thinking how I feel like the masses are. DDP's just a way better striker, you know. The leg kicks. The kicks are going to be problematic. That's something I will never ignore, how problematic those kicks are going to be, you know. He's just so good with them, you know. But I feel like why people don't understand this is going to, like, just like when I said Islam's going to outstrike JDM, no one really understood what I meant by that. And like, they were trying to act like I was a dumbass. They really were. They're like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, JDM's going to destroy him in the striking. But I was like, the takedown threat. And Usman does the best job out of every UFC fighter of feinting takedowns, because like, he will sometimes even actually grab your leg. Like, he's so good at feinting it that I literally remember one time he was feinting against Leon the whole fight, and then one time he like goes to grab like a feint and the takedown, and Leon doesn't react. So Usman's like, oh fuck, we're wrestling now, and then Usman tries to wrestle him. So I see situations like that where like Usman's just, he's so good at feinting that he even sometimes he's like, wait, why is that feint? Like, how did I actually grab a hold of your leg? Like, because you're just not biting on the feint. So Usman he does it a lot, and I feel like it's gonna be really good against DDP, specifically because DDP is coming off a fight where he just got dominated and he's anticipating Usman to wrestle heavy. So when he does feint, it's going to leave some openings in the striking. And then it's going to lead to something where I feel like DDP is going to always want to get that get back and come and strike more, which I'm going to say this is going to happen. If Usman feints a takedown, right, and then goes for a strike and lands clean 1-2, DDP's going to get frustrated. He's going to be like, oh, fuck, I'm coming. And then he's going to get timed and taken down probably. So that's what I see happening in a fight like this, honestly. Which leads me to the grappling, because we got to still talk about the grappling, because that's going to be a big part about this fight, in a fight that everyone is wondering what's going to happen in it. So grappling pros for Usman, great takedown timing. Like, he just times his takedowns appropriately. He doesn't really force too much stupid shit. Usually, of course, every fighter does that at a point, but he doesn't really force dumb shit. Like, he finds good timing on it. Specifically against Buckley, I remember Buckley was jumping into some pressure, I think the very first takedown, but you can't do that. Like, you can't just blitz against Usman like he's these other guys, or you're gonna get taken down. Buckley could have got away with that in other fights where he just throws some blitz, not worried about a takedown. You can't do that against Usman, which brings me to DDP, who has that sloppy blitz. Like I said, if Usman's feinting a takedown then landing on 1-2, then DDP is frustrated, like he always gets when he gets touched and wants to get his get back, so he looks, you know, comparable in the round. He's gonna get taken down off that, because he just, the way, like I said, when he's throwing that blitz, he's switching stances in the process of it, and his footing's not really completely under him, so he like lacks balance, and it's so easy to take him down. So yeah, Usman has great timing. So I feel like one of his best weapons, which is that strong boxing blitz, could be negated in this fight just because of good takedown timing of Kamaru Usman. Also said he's heavy in half guard and side control, like he's upper body. He does a good job pressuring it with his shoulders, his back. He has decent hips. His hips are like, of course, they could be a little better because his lower half of his body is kind of like skinny, but his upper half's like pretty good. But he does a good job controlling you, using his shoulders and put him in your face. And he actually has strong ground and pound from half guard and full guard. So if he gets you in full guard or half guard, he'll be active in full guard. Unlike a lot of fighters, he'll be active in half guard, landing elbows, landing like hammer fist. He's like that. Like, he actually lets his hands go when he gets the chance to. Also, I said he locks his hands well to maneuver his opponents. I said maneuver opens. I don't know what the hell I said there, but to maneuver his opponents. Like, for example, once he has his hands locked, chances are you're going for the ride, but it's what he does after he takes you for the ride. Like, he'll take you down, and then he'll still have a hold of your legs, and he will like have them wrapped in his hands locked, and he's just gonna elevate your knees higher than your upper body, and like leading you to you falling backwards. He just has a good job using his locked hands to create more controlling positions, and I feel like it was shown a lot in the Buckley fight specifically, but he does that a lot in his fights. He uses his hand lock and like starts to maneuver his opponents where he wants them to. So if Usman gets his hands locked against you, chances are it's gonna be a tough one for you, unless you're really strong, which DDP is. But it's gonna, like, Usman, I think, is gonna have a good time or easy time controlling you. Also said he has good clinch control and clinch strikes. You know, Usman, if he has you in the clinch, he's not gonna just be sitting there. You have foot stomps, you have shoulder shrugs. He's just dirty. Like, Usman will do things like unconventional just to bother you. Like, he's not gonna let you rest in the clinch. You know, so if you're gonna be put in the clinch, it's not a resting spot for Kamaru. He's gonna consistently make you work. Which leads me to some cons, though, unfortunately. I said sometimes he shoots out of distance. Sometimes. It's not normal for him to do this. But I remember against Buckley, sometimes he'll shoot a far takedown. But, like, he's so good that if he gets his hands locked, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes he shoots a far takedown, which is not good. And I said his bad knees affect some scrambles. You know, like, if someone stuffs a takedown and they start to scramble, like, you can see, like, the mobility in his knees aren't fully there. So he's not able to do what he fully wants to because he has bad knees. So that's something I have to say. Even though we all know it, I still have to say it. If Usman had good knees, I don't think it's possible to, like, humanly possible to be able to beat him. Like, I think this nerf was necessary in life, because I don't know how he has so much success despite having knees like that. I just don't understand. But anyways, let's get into Dricus Du Plessis grappling pros. He's strong. That's the best thing ever. Like, honestly, his BJJ is not bad. He does some tournaments and stuff. But, like, as far as grappling pros in the MMA octagon, the best thing I could grasp from him, he's strong. You know, he had that, like, headlock throw on Whitaker takedown, but that was all kind of strength based, kind of just muscle them there. You know, he's like, he'll get out of some grappling situations sometimes because of his brute strength. I remember against Hamza in the later rounds when they're both tired, the way he, like, got on top of Hamza and actually scored the only takedown on Hamza. That's the only time Hamza has been taken down. Like, he scored it off of, like, just being stronger in that moment. You know, not really much technique behind that at all. Kind of just like, no, you ain't gonna brute strength me. So his strength is good. Like, that's not the most impressive grappling pro, but it's something I feel like people need to understand about him. He's like the type to, like, just brute strength Kimura lock someone because he's just strong as shit. You know, that's South African strength. As for cons, he's kind of got a lot. He's easy to take down, lacks fundamental balance. He relies on strength to get up, and he settles on his back. Meaning he crosses his legs. When I say easy to take down, like, just for the reasons being, every single person who tried to take down DDP succeeds. Like, Izzy was able to put him in a bad widget spot. Like, Yeah, people like Brunson flipping him like a pancake. Darren Till was able to take him down. It's just like it's not hard to take down DDP, and I do think it's because he lacks balance. Like his footing is always weird. He's always switching stances. He's never really settled into a position, which leads to him when he gets taken down, like not expecting it. And it's not hard to get in his hips. Like his reactivity seems to be a bit lackluster. Hamza was getting to his hips on some questionable attempts. Like you would think he would know Hamza was gonna shoot, but like it seemed like he just wasn't ready to stuff it. And then Hamza gets to his hips easy. And once you get to his hips, it's a matter of balance at that point, and it's not hard to take him down. The only time he stuffs takedowns if he sees it coming and does a good job sprawling before they get to his hips, because he's strong. So once he gets to sprawling, he's good. But like even against Hamza, I remember he sprawled one perfectly, but then Hamza just kept chaining, kept going, and then he had nothing for him. So, which I don't think something Usman does great, like because Usman doesn't have the best knees, so like it's hard to like him to take someone down and keep going. But yeah, it's just interesting the way DDP lacks in reactivity. Also said like he relies on his strength to get up. Like I've been saying, that means when he's taken down, like I just feel like he's more bucking than like going for actual sweeps. And he settles on his back. Like against Hamza, like I remember a lot of times he'd cross his legs, almost surrender position. He's not really trying to get to a hip. He's just trying to like, I guess, avoid taking damage. So sometimes he might even hug them tightly because he's strong. It's just interesting though, but he's like settling. Like when you see a opponent on their back, like grabbing onto their upper back, squeezing, they're just doing it so they don't take damage. When they cross their leg, they're not like, that's not something to get up. People do that sometimes to avoid getting mounted. But like it's not like you're trying to get up position. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you're not actively trying to get out your position. You're just trying not to make the position worse for you, which is not a bad thing. It's good to sometimes squeeze onto someone and not get punched, or cross your legs and not try to not allow them to get full mount. But you're not actively getting up and you're in a losing position, which leads to you losing fights. So it's just not a good thing to do. Like settle on your back. If you're trying to win the fight, at least it's not a good thing to do. So we'll see what if he does or how he improves. But that's something I noticed for his grappling cons. As far as the grappling comparison, I said Usman will take down DDP. This is no secret. I think everyone knows that. Usman will likely control him in the half guard position. I can see Usman being very heavy on half guard. DDP didn't seem like he wanted to get to a hip, but DDP is going to be strong. So it's going to be interesting if Usman's still going to be able to be stronger than him in half guard. That's going to be very interesting. I want to see what's going to happen there. But I do think Usman's strong enough to contain him in a half guard. I said DDP will cause scrambles late and probably win them. I think later in the fight, Usman might get out-scrambled by him. I think just because DDP, like, he never wilts. Like, one thing about DDP, he's never going to wilt. I'm not saying Usman wilts either, but like if DDP is getting control for majority of the fight, he's gonna start like saying fuck it and like taking some risk, and he could take more risk because Usman doesn't have that submission threat. That's something to keep in mind as well. But I said DDP's size will help him the most. Like I said, like there's some things that Buckley was getting controlled by. It's not like Buckley's not a small welterweight. He's a 185 who went down to welterweight. You know what I'm saying? But Buckley's like he's built. Don't get me wrong, but DDP's just massive, dude. So I feel like the size of DDP could be pretty intimidating, and it could also lead to like him winning some scrambles or like allowing him to not fully get controlled. He actually might be able to muscle his way up on a lot of these exchanges. So that should be interesting, but time will tell. As far as important factors, I said DDP may be stronger. This is something worth noting. I said DDP may be stronger than Hamza too, but not in the wrestling sense, which I was right about. He's just bigger. It's not like Usman hasn't been in with stronger people, but I just feel like this is going to be the strongest person or biggest person Usman has fought against. I said DDP could throw less fearing the takedown. So this is one of the things I said, like Usman's fight IQ could help him mitigate DDP's output. So DDP is known for being heavy on the output, but I feel like he's going to be a little bit less heavy on the output when he's worried about the takedown. And that's what Usman does so good. He constantly puts fear in the back of his opponent's head. Like that's why he feints those takedowns, stays on the pressure. He doesn't like to make you feel settled or comfortable. Whereas Sean Strickland, you could get away with like kind of chilling for a bit because Strickland's going to jab and teep. No real threat for someone like DDP who could strike pretty well. Like Izzy's not really going to feint anything that'll make him worry. DDP, when he was getting outstruck by Izzy, he could just go to the takedown. When he was getting flustered by Strickland, he could go to the takedown. When Darren Till was started piecing him up, he could go to the takedown. If Usman's having a good time, like a hard time or like a good time with him on the feet, he can't just go to the takedown. So there's certain things that is going to lead to DDP struggling, but I do think he's going to actually throw less because the fear of the takedown. Then I said DDP's accustomed to strikers, like I was saying before. These guys are all strikers, guys. Like he's not used to wrestlers, and like especially a well-rounded wrestler at that. This is the most well-rounded opponent DDP's ever fought. That's a fact, and people aren't going to understand that. This is the most well-rounded person DDP's ever fought. Of course, they're not in their prime, but he's going to be no slouch. And I said the cardio probably favors Usman, but it's not like something notable. Like there's going to be a situation where DDP looks tired, but he's going to keep swinging, and I know there's going to be that, but it still favors Usman, like, because Usman's going to be more under pressure, I think, in this fight. So I'm figuring Usman's going to be under pressure. It should be interesting how they seesaw it, how Usman's going to react to the blitz, et cetera, but I think Usman is probably going to have the cardio advantage and probably keep on the pressure more so than DDP will. Let me go do path to victory. Someone said I should add this portion of my little breakdowns, and I think it's a very smart idea. Here's Usman's path to victory. Use feints, to help with striking and dictating pace. His feints are going to help him land more on the feet as well as to dictate the pace. So when I say dictate the pace, I mean if Usman's just doing little feints and causing reactions out of DDP, he's going to slow it down if he needs to, or he's going to make DDP do more. But that's dictating everything. That's pretty much dictating DDP's behavior. Making DDP jump back, or like it makes him less comfortable, and it makes him lack the security of letting his hands or legs go. Something else, I remember DDP against Derek Brunson. He was throwing body kicks. Brunson would catch it, take him down. He can't just, I feel like the takedown feints are going to make DDP's best weapons kind of be negated a bit more than I anticipated. Because before watching footage, I was saying he's just going to do whatever he wants on the feet. And then he might not stuff every takedown, but if he gets up, it's going to be hard, for Usman. But like now that I really see why, because I'm like, why do people not throw so much kicks against Usman? Or why do people not? Then I watch Usman's fights. I'm like, why does Usman keep feinting? Like, stop. Like, let them breathe. Let them breathe a bit. Hey, you're just feinting constantly. Like, it's weird. He does it really well, in my opinion. I said time the takedowns off the blitz or landed strikes. So when I'm saying this, I mean when DDP's doing that little boxing blitz where he's switching stances, like his feet aren't planted, that's where you switch levels. You did it against Buckley really well. Sometimes it might lead to some physical crashes, and he's a big dude, so like sometimes it's going to be hard to capitalize on that crash, but I do think he should initiate a clinch or a takedown attempt off that blitz, and make DDP realize, like, I'm not these other people. You can't just run at me guns a-blazing or I'm going to take you down. Also said he should do it off a landing strike. So after Usman lands a strike, like I said, he knows the blitz is coming, because one thing about DDP, he's a reactive striker. Like, as in, like, I want my get back striker. You hit, bro, look at any footage of DDP. You hit him with a good shot, he's going to come back with that combo because he just wants to get it back so bad. He's a little bit greedy. I'd call it a greedy striking tactic. So I think Usman should time it off of those. So he should time it off of either when he blitzes or after he lands a strike, he should just shoot a takedown because a blitz is probably going to be coming. I said control the striking with the jab. Strickland shown that. Strickland showed a good jab could cause damage on DDP. Both fights, DDP's face wore. Of course, the first fight was a lot worse for DDP, but it was from the straight punches, from the jabs and the 1-2s. I think Usman has a better jab than Strickland, and I think has more power behind it. I think has more finishing ability behind it. Strickland jabs you guys, but like it's not like he's going to jab you and damage you up, but for the most part, he's not going to like knock you out from a jab. Usman can knock you out or drop you for a jab, and then like you follow up with a straight behind it, and that power rear hand from Usman is really good too. So I think he should try to control it with the jab, frustrate him, and then use the feints and just control the overall gist of the striking. Then I said make him pay on the ground. Usman's pretty good at this. Like, just make it ugly in the clinch, in the ground. Like, every time you get him down, you gotta make him pay. You gotta make it ugly. You gotta make him realize, like, listen, you're not gonna have comfortability on the feet or in the ground. I'm gonna torture you here. So my only fear of Usman losing this is if he doesn't shoot a takedown, which is actually possible, because I've seen fighters do this. Like, sometimes you're expecting a fighter to go in there and fight with a game plan that they've shown before, but it's a fight at the end of the day. Sometimes that goes out the window, so I wouldn't even be surprised if Usman doesn't wrestle. I'd be a bit surprised, but you never know. Maybe he's like scared of wrestling, or no, like there's things, man. There's things. So, but I think if Usman follows his path to victory, I think he'll have no problem winning. As for Dricus Du Plessis' path to victory, I said use the low kicks to slow Usman's movement. Don't be afraid to kick just because he's feigning a takedown. If he's gonna catch a kick and take you down, be ready to scramble. But like, let your leg kicks go, let your body kicks go. I said go low with the kicks, then go high. No, just mean low kicks, like leg kicks. I mean body kicks too. Usman reacts badly to body kicks, and then eventually he's going to be covering so low, worry about the low kick, trying to lean back or like use his arm to switch down the body kick, then go high. It's going to land flush, and I can knock out Usman as well. We've seen that in the past. I said be less careful. I said be less careless with the punching blitz. Do not just jump into that 1-2 like you always do. You do have to make adjustments on your regular fight style, whereas I feel like Usman doesn't need to do that. I think DDP does need to do that, which kind of gets scary for me, because when a fighter when a fighter needs to make a change from what they regularly do, I have a harder time seeing them make the change. Like for Usman, he doesn't need to make much changes in this fight, where I feel like DDP does from a stylistic standpoint. Like, he can't be as careless with that punching blitz like he usually is, or he's gonna get taken down. So I just think he needs to be a bit more careful. I don't know if I said be less careless. Be more careful would be a better way to say that. Be more careful with that punching blitz, I said don't settle on the ground as well. This is a big one. Get to a hip. You can't be settling on the ground. Like, if you're settling on your back, if you start crossing your legs, if you're getting controlled in side control, even if you're bucking, just buck, bro. If you're lacking the technique, just, you have to buck. You might be stronger. Like, Usman's not as strong as Hamza, or as good as controlling as Hamza. So you got to be able to buck. You're going to buck your way out of it, I think, honestly. So just don't settle on the ground. Like, the second he settles on the ground, that's when Usman mentally starts to get the edge over him. So I feel like he should never get comfortable on the ground, always get to a hip and get back to his feet. I said don't like Usman take the center. Usman does a lot of dictating when he takes the center. He does a lot of feints when he takes the center. If you're backing him up behind that line, he's going to feel less comfortable to shoot a takedown. You just got to keep out the pressure, whatever that means. Just don't let him dictate the pace. Be the one dictating, and that's gonna lead to DDP leading the dance, which is gonna probably lead to an easy win for Dricus Du Plessis. As far as my prediction in this fight, after watching all this footage, my prediction, logically, Usman wins by points. Now, is this my official pick? You're gonna find out in like the next 5 minutes when I say it, but that's the logic behind this. I think DDP's going to start well with the kicks. I think he's going to kick a lot, maybe land some low kicks, just cause a little bit of trouble for Usman. But I think Usman scores a takedown early. I think that's going to probably happen early. And I just don't know how DDP's going to react to that. I think the first takedown is going to tell us a lot about how this fight's going to go, whether that takedown's stuffed or whether that takedown's successful and DDP struggling to get up. That's going to say a lot about the fight, of course. I can see the takedown feints being problematic for DDP. I keep emphasizing the feints in this one because when you're going to see, like I said, you're going to see when the fight happens. But I do think the feints are going to be something that's going to cause DDP to throw less. It's going to cause DDP to be more cautious of the wrestling. It's going to cause DDP to maybe look uncharacteristic. So I feel like that's something worth noting. I said Usman's seemingly just too well-rounded for Dricus Du Plessis. Like, he is. Kamaru just seems like he's better at Dricus Du Plessis than majority of the errors. This is one of the most well-rounded fighters of all time, and of course this is the most well-rounded fighter Dricus Du Plessis ever fought. I said DDP's only chance is thudding power and his size. Now, as you can see, my prediction says logically Usman wins by points, but like I said earlier, you got to consider the age. He's 39 years old. He's not active. If this is prime versus prime, this is not even for me at least, after watching footage, of course, this is not even a close fight per se, like in my opinion. Age, of course, means a lot. It means something. 39 is not the same as 39 as like a light heavyweight. This is 39 as a fucking middleweight, welterweight. DDP's like 34. He's still young. He's hungry. It's just hard to tell with this one. Usman doesn't look less hungry, I will say that. I remember I was questioning his hunger going into the Buckley fight, but he looked hungrier than ever. The physicality of DDP is what's worrying me about this fight. And it's just weird for me because stylistically, Usman's a lot better, and this is not a hard pick stylistically. I just don't want to look at this fight too stylistically when age is to be considered. But here's the problem with if I pick DDP. If I pick DDP, he's a good striker, yeah, but it's like I wouldn't be picking DDP because I genuinely think he's going to win. I'd be picking DDP because I'm too scared to trust Usman to show up how he's been showing up, which seems a little bit counterproductive about the point of these videos. I've gotten all these picks right doing videos like this because I look at the fights from a stylistic standpoint, But most of those fights, age wasn't a big thing. I guess Oliveira was a bit older than Max, but not that much, honestly. I don't think so, at least. I don't think age was ever something I considered in videos like this. Maybe it should be considered, but that being said, you're only as good as your last fight, and Usman was 38 his last fight, and he kind of just walked through Buckley. Unfortunately, and this could be a mistake, I'm going to follow logic, and I'm going to pick Kamaru Usman to win. Could be dangerous, but I just feel like after watching footage, I would be lying to myself if I said I genuinely believe Dricus Du Plessis wins. I'd be lying. If I told you guys right now DDP wins, I wouldn't be telling, like, I wouldn't say what I believe. I'll be saying something safe, you know? And yeah, I just want to say what I genuinely believe after watching footage, and I genuinely believe Kamaru Usman is going to defeat Dricus Du Plessis at UFC OKC. But yeah, that's my official pick. I have to just be honest with myself. I know, like, DDP the whole time when I first heard the fight, and now I'm switching up, like, just like I did with Paddy BSD, just like I did with Max Charles, Yuri Uberg. There's something about footage that like changes my perspective when I realize one person is objectively just better than the other. This happens to be another situation of that. I'm going Kamaru Usman officially to be Dricus Du Plessis. But let me know your thoughts down below. Kamaru Usman, at the end of the day, guys, he had an amazing run. But the thing is, I just don't think that run's over. And I think he's going to shock a lot of people. And I think him beating Dricus Du Plessis might solidify him as a top 10 UFC fighter of all time. Let me know your thoughts down below. That's it for me. Oh, God bless. 2, 3.